Welcome to this week's edition of Pit Stop with me, Jaco van der Merwe, and I'm joined by Charl Bosch. Seems like we've been stuck in China for a while on this podcast, and today's no difference. We're going to focus on I'm going to allow Charl to pronounce that name.
Oh, really? Why?
It's better known by the abbreviation, but Charl, go for it.
Well, we've been practicing this before we went on. It's Jinghao Automobile Group, otherwise known as JAC, which sounds a little bit better.
Can I call them JAC?
No, please don't. No.
Okay, we'll call them...
No, I don't think they will appreciate it if you call it JAC. I know a lot of people do, but it's JAC. It's not JAC.
Okay, well, JAC then. So what's new developments over there is they've recently rolled out the T9 bakkie, which is their top spec bakkie, following the T6, the T8. But it's long overdue. But besides that, Charl attended that launch, and very interesting thing to come out of there is the bakkie, the T9-based SUV, which is basically going to rival any other bakkie-based body-on-frame SUV, which would include South Africa's all-time favorite, the Toyota Fortuner. It obviously opens the whole dance floor to the Ford Everest, the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport, the Isuzu MU-X, and, of course, the Mahindra Scorpio N. So, Charl, what did they say the plans are for this thing?
Well, I think they were. It was a big surprise to us all. They only showed a drawing of what the T9 SUV will look like. So in China, it's called the T9 Hunter, the bakkie. It was unveiled about 4 years ago, and we got to see it for the first time in the flesh at the Shanghai Motor Show last year, and it was quite. It made it's a bold-looking thing. It's an aggressive-looking thing, and you're right. It has been delayed for countless amounts of times. It's finally got launched earlier this month. So the SUV version, we don't know a lot about it.
It doesn't have a name yet.
No, it doesn't have a name. It's for now just simply called the T9 SUV, but it'll probably have an eventual production name. What we weren't sure about is the front end is T9. It's 100%. But whether the drawings they showed us is how the final product looks like, or if it's just a concept drawing, if I can put it like that, we don't know. If it is the production photos that were shown, it looks quite impressive. It's got the back end is very reminiscent of some of the other Chinese products you get from Haval, the new Haval H6, I think, or H9, if I can remember correctly. So, body on frame, bakkie-based SUV, similar to based on the T9's JL32 platform. The interior will probably be exactly the same as the bakkie, apart from that it will have 7 seats. JC didn't disclose that. They didn't provide they didn't provide any details.
But 7 seats is exactly in that ballpark. The Fortuners, the Everest, the Pajero Sports, the Scorpion Ns, they all have the 7 seats.
You can basically assume that it's going to have 7 seats as standard, yes. And, of course, low-range transfer case on 4-wheel drive models, so on. But exact details, we've got no idea. We were the first media to be shown this, I think, in the whole world, because it hasn't even been shown in China at all.
That's very interesting. But I suppose we can safely assume, as far as hardware goes, talking about the equipment, that like the Hilux and the Fortuner, like the Ranger and the Everest, that it will have the same hardware.
Yeah.
And obviously, what engine are we talking about? It's going to be similar to the T9's engine.
So you get a bunch of engines in China, but for South Africa, the only engine available is a 2-litre turbo diesel, an in-house developed 2-litre turbo diesel that makes 125 kilowatts and 410 Newton meters of torque. So for us, you can expect that engine, full stop, connected to a ZF-sourced, the ubiquitous ZF-sourced 8-speed automatic transmission. So exactly the same as the T9 Hunter without the Hunter suffix in South Africa.
I was just going to be saying that obviously we've dropped the Hunter, it's just the T9, and now we're obviously talking about the T9 SUV. Doesn't have a name or a number or a designation yet. It might become the S10 or the
Well, if it's called S10, then it's going to get into huge trouble with General Motors, who owns that name. But, probably. Well, I don't know.
It's not the S24, because, that's a Galaxy Samsung.
No, that's going to be much more. Okay, Or S11 or S12,
Exactly. But the bakkie, they said during the launch of the T9 that it's because obviously of that engine outputs. It's basically a rival for the smaller engine capacity Hiluxes, the Rangers, all of that, maybe the Isuzus. So, especially price-wise, I mean, the T9 starts at what, 549?
Yes,
It goes up to 679. If we can expect the same sort of strategy from this T9 SUV, it's going to obviously, we would think, it's going to come in a bit lower than its rivals. I mean, if you just look at pricing now, the Ford, you don't get the single turbo on the Everest anymore, but that starts the XLT, which is over 900, where the Fortuner, the South African favorite, starts at 679, which is obviously the 2.4, not the 4x4 option. So you would think it would come in there about, let's say, even base model for less than 600, maybe in the lower 600s, but that would obviously be a very, very strong selling point of this product.
A very big one, considering the amount of kit that you get. I mean, that the T9, depending on what trim level you have. I mean, we drove the top of the range Super Lux at the launch, which even has a sunroof, which is a bit weird for a bakkie.
For a bakkie.
Very, very strange. What they did say was, along the T9 line, we thought they were very ambitious. So JAC is known for its trucks. That's how they made their business in South Africa, with diesel and now more recently with electric trucks. So, and they only ventured into the bakkie market a couple of years ago with the T6 and the T8, obviously. So I think it's going to be a very interesting, the whole pricing situation. What they did say is with the bakkie, they are targeting Navara, Mitsubishi Triton, and D-Max, which I think is a little bit too high. It's a bit ambitious. And then that's from new. And then they said when somebody wants to trade in their maybe 2 or 3 year old Hilux or Ranger, they are pitching the T9 as a direct competitor to a mid-spec Hilux Raider or a mid-spec Ranger XLT. So if you look at the pricing from the T9's perspective, it could go very well up against your entry-level XLT Everest, and maybe then aim it at middle-spec Fortuner, maybe even the Isuzu MUX and the higher-end Pajero and Mahindra. So it will probably, I don't think it'll undercut the Scorpio N, which is basically the
that
cheapest.
Starts at 477.
Yeah, that's the cheapest bakkie-based SUV you can buy at the moment. So I think, it'll probably be around about that 600-odd thousand rand mark, maybe even less, depending on what drivetrain, or not drivetrain, but where the power's going to go, with rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive.
Just speaking about brand perception in general with JAC, obviously in their efforts of luring buyers from other brands, what is their presence like? I mean, do you know offhand how many dealerships they have? Because the first thing people would say is, if my car breaks, where do I buy parts? What about after sales? That's obviously a concern.
JAC has been a very quiet, as one publication said about another brand many, many years ago, they rely on stealth. Basically, they've been really, very quiet in the bakkie segment. As I said, the trucks are selling well. You see a JAC truck basically almost everywhere, not everywhere, but you see quite a lot of them. So they've been going under the mantra of they've been steadily building their sales, their dealer networks. I think, if memory serves me correctly, it was over 70 dealers that they have in the country at the moment. They're even present in some SADC countries as well. So they're not only here briefly or a fly-by night entry into the country. And this year marked their 60th anniversary. This year, that's why this whole launch, celebrating 60 years, including the T9's debut. So it's not as if they are not here to stay. And what they then said is they've realigned the T6 a couple of months ago. Same with the T8, introduced more derivatives. They will be adding a single cab version of the T6 in due course this year. And they've said that their aim is to sell at least a projected 3,000 vehicles this year. Now with the T9, sorry, not Hunter. Now with the T9 available, so it's not as if they are They're quiet achiever, but I think you'll see quite a lot of them now on the road with the T9 now introduced.
Very ambitious indeed, as with all Chinese manufacturers
Absolutely.
these days. But as soon as we know more about this JAC T9 SUV, when there's a name or any more information, check back with us. That was it from us for this week. Thanks for listening to Pit Stop Podcast. You can go and share this podcast. You can like it if you liked it, of course. And you can also choose to follow the Citizen News YouTube channel and then stay up to date every week by checking in with us. Thank you very much for listening. Cheers.